The pedal board is complete. I rewired it, cleaned everything up, had to make quite a few new wires. When I powered it up, I realized that I hadn't tested all of them, so had to go back through and do some troubleshooting. Lesson number 1, always test your wires as you go. That's a lesson I've learned many times. Probably learn it again. But here's the pedal board. New wiring, slightly new layout. I'll go over what's on it, and then I'll scan over here to my amp. I typically use a deluxe reverb. Live, I'll put a 112 Mesa Boogie cabinet. Those are loaded with EV 300 watt speakers. I use a closed back on stage because this amp is an open back. I do have a version of that Mesa Boogie cabinet that's a half back, so the half of it's open in the back. I like that, but I prefer the closed back with this cabinet, with this amplifier, because it's an open back amp. So it's a nice combination, blending the two, a closed back and an open back. Get some oomph and then kind of a nice wash. Then there's my guitar. Okay, let me tell you what I've done to the pedal board. Of course, I start with the wireless unit. That's where the sound originates. That's the green box. It's kind of dark down there, so it's a Sennheiser wireless unit. And then that feeds into my love pedal. I have been using a VHT for several years now, but it went down on me, and that was a line level boost. So I had this love pedal in my backup pedal board, and I pulled it out. It has a slightly brighter sound. I think I like that. I don't know that I like it better than the VHT. So I've only done one show with it, so I want to work with that for a little bit. Got my tuner hiding over here in the background. Let me turn that on. There we go. I don't tune very often during a show. When I put my strings on, I change them real often, stretch them out really good. My strings have always really stayed in tune. I check my tuning usually when I'm thinking, but my guitar seldom goes out of tune. So wireless unit to the love pedal. Then from the love pedal, I go to my wah. From my wah pedal, I go to my tube screamers. The one to the left is what I call tube screamer number 1. And both of the tube screamers, I have the unity set straight up at noon, and I have the tone set to 10 o'clock. But on my tube screamer number 1, I turn the drive straight up, and tube screamer number 2 up at the drive at 3 o'clock. And I'll turn my tube screamer number 2 on and off to clean up the sound. And I'll give you an example of that when I play here in a few minutes. I keep the first tube screamer on 100% of the time. If I turn my volume down slightly on my guitar, that cleans the sound up really nicely. So I can still get a nice clean sound, or open my guitar wide open, and nice distorted sound, but not too much. Bring in that second tube screamer, and it just screams. Truth be known, I leave the second tube screamer on about 90% of the time. So I'm running both of these. A very hot signal hitting my amp, and if you'll see, my amp, the volume in here is just past 2. On stage, 3 is as loud as I ever run it. I have the treble not quite at 5 because this love pedal is producing more high end. I always turn my bass all the way up to 10. And the reverb is just slightly past 2. I've never used a vibrato in these amps. I probably should experiment with that, but that's a different day, a different story. So, wireless unit to my love pedal, to my wah pedal, to tube screamer number 1, which is the cleaner of the two, to tube screamer number 2. And from there, I hit my line 6. This is the modulation line 6. It has a Leslie. I have it set up with a slow Leslie that has kind of a extreme chorus sound. Then I have a nice sweet chorus on the second button. I have a vibrato on the third button, and I have a univibe on the fourth button. I don't use these very often. I tend to just kind of go for a pretty straightforward tone with not a lot of modulation. From the Mod 6, I go right above it to the Deja vibe. You know, I've heard other people play through these, and they have a much stronger signal as far as the effect signal than mine does. I don't know if mine's defective. I honestly don't know. And I've kind of used it as a boost. I have my volume sitting at 3 o'clock, the intensity all the way up. I have it on the vintage switch and the vibrato switch. And I keep it on 100% of the time. I have the speed turned down really low. I'll give you an example of what that sounds like when I play. I really like it. I mean, if it doesn't work like it should, well, maybe I should have one that does, but I think I'd still use this exactly the way that it is. I know I've heard other people use these, and they're much stronger signal, and I've got the intensity all the way up, volume up, you know, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. But I really like this used as a boost with just a little bit of vibrato. It's pretty cool. I think you'll like it. I'll play it for you. From this piece, the Deja vibe, I go to my volume pedal. I was having some real trouble with my rig this past weekend and discovered that the volume pedal that I have several of these. I don't know if the pot's dirty or what, but it had a short in it, so I pulled it out of the chain and stuck this one in for now until I can get that one fixed. I've used these Ernie Ball volume pedals forever. I love them. They're great. I mean, I've just worn so many of them out. Dirt, you know, you can put another pot in there. They're easy to fix. So they're really, really solid pieces of gear. Nice and smooth. So that is my volume. And I always put my volume before my delays because I like to be able to get the guitar swells. So I go first to this line 6 delay. It has a looper, but I don't use the looper in this. I mainly have it set up for the first pedal, which is the one that's on solid. I have that set to kind of my shorter delay. Not extremely short, but shorter. Right around 420 milliseconds. And then the second pedal is my longer delay. And I have the delay signal a little hotter. So the delay sound that comes after my original note's a little hotter on the longer delay because I want that as more of an extreme effect. I have a little bit weaker signal that blends in better on the first one because I have it turned on more and I don't want it to get in the way. So from this line 6, I go to the Memory Man. And I use this Memory Man, I use this Memory Man delay as a more extreme effect. I would not turn this, the way that I have it setting, I wouldn't turn this on and leave it on for long periods. I have it set up rather extreme to add like that wow factor to the leads on the, like the stuff that goes on and on and on. Then from my Memory Man, I go to my Super Shifter, and I keep that set at a 5th below. And I've used Boss multi-effects units early on for years, and I love their pitch shifter. But this floor pedal, when I turn on the effect, the whole volume of my guitar drops. It's like it splits the original tone and the affected tone, and like it divides it, instead of adding to my original tone the harmonizer effect. So that's a little frustrating. I don't have control over that aspect of this pedal. So I always feel like, when I want it to really jump out and stand out, it's a nice, clean, smooth, harmony, but it drops down in volume a little bit, and I've messed with the settings 1,000 times. I mean, it's just what it does. So I'm looking for a small harmonizer, or, the next rig where I resolve that. I don't use a harmonizer a lot, and it's not drastic, and I doubt anybody notices but me. But what it is that I'm looking to pull out of that, I'm not quite getting. So, and I heard really good reviews, so maybe I'm just picky, I don't know, but that's my experience of it. This is one thing that I added. I added the loop station. I'm not committed to doing a lot with this, but I do want to experiment. I'm doing a lot of ambient material, but this particular rig is not set up in stereo, and I do not have expression pedals on any of my delays, so I'm somewhat limited by the ambient sounds that I can get currently by this setup. So putting this looper in it's probably not going to get a lot of action anytime soon. I did recently purchase the new Boss RC300. I just took it out of the box last week. I'm excited about playing with it. Not quite sure where I'm headed with that. But I use Ableton Live. The looping, you can make that thing loop for forever. But undo, there's no undo function. Now, if I use the looper built into Ableton, there's an undo function there. But the way that I have my MIDI pedals set up, it doesn't accommodate that currently. So I've kind of got this live blues rock guitar rig and this Ableton spaceship that I've built over here, and then my acoustic rig with my looper that I'm trying to kind of bring elements of all this together and figure out the best, most simple way to really get a nice ambient sound, but also be able to grab my acoustic guitar and play, which, if you'll notice, I put my acoustic preamp, just a DI, fancy DI. Sounds really nice, though. Wanting to blend all of this, so this is the rig. Now I'm going to play for you just a little bit, so please hold.